The dim light flickered overhead, casting thin shadows across the cramped dining room where Jack sat. The wooden table scratched and stained like an old battlefield. The air hung heavy, thick with the bitter smell of burnt coffee and old resentment. Jack's fingers twitched under the table, curling into tight fists, his mouth dry as gravel. Around him, the family leaned back in their chairs, smirking, eyes gleaming with cruel amusement. "So, still flipping burgers, eh?" his cousin sneered, voice sharp as broken glass. "Must be real thrilling, Jack, living that exciting life of minimum wage and zero respect." Jack's throat tightened. He chewed the inside of his lip until it bled, swallowing back the sting. He'd heard it all before. The jeers, the whispered jokes, the loud laughs that cut through whatever dignity he had left. They didn't see the hours he put in, the plans he cooked. What dreams! You can't even keep a steady job! The words hit like ice water, freezing his insides. His chest tightened so much it hurt to breathe. But beneath that cold, a spark ignited. Not anger, no, something fiercer. Resolve. If they wouldn't take him seriously, he'd show them. He'd take control of what they all cared about, the diner. Days later, with his heart hammering and doubt gnawing at every step, Jack signed the papers. The little bell of the diner door jingled as he stepped inside for the first time as the owner. The place was a relic. Faded neon signs buzzed weakly outside, and inside, the air smelled of grease and stale secrets. He found a pile of old ledgers tucked beneath the counter, yellowed and curling at the edges. As he flipped through the pages, his fingers trembling, a pattern emerged. Numbers that didn't add up, strange withdrawals, and cryptic notes scribbled in the margins. Suspicious transactions tied directly to his uncle's name stared back. Jack's pulse raced, a cold sense of betrayal creeping over him. Was his uncle stealing from the family? From the legacy Jack just dared to claim? The walls of the diner suddenly felt like they were closing in, suffocating. He could hear the echoes of mocking laughter from the dinner table, sharper now than ever. He sat back, heart pounding, eyes fixed on the ledger's last page. Uneasy questions swirling in his mind. Should he confront his uncle head-on? Shatter what little family trust remained? Or dig deeper, risk unearthing darker truths hidden in these dusty corners? The diner's dim lights flickered again. Outside, the chatter of the small town buzzed on, oblivious. Inside, Jack's world was about to twist in ways he never expected, and nothing would ever be the same. Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without warning. Just take a quick look. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's coming. And since you're there, leave that powerful like that helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know each incredible person who is part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Jack's hands shook as he closed the ledger, the paper crackling like dry leaves. The diner felt colder now, empty somehow, as if the walls themselves knew what he'd found. He rubbed his eyes, a dull ache blossoming behind his temples, and leaned back against the cracked leather booth. Then, the sudden slam of the front door shattered the silence. The bell jingled frantically. Jack's head snapped up. His cousin Maggie stormed in, her face flushed, chest heaving with something fierce. Anger? Fear? She didn't see Jack at first, her eyes wild, like she'd just run through fire. "Jack!" she yelled, voice sharp and breaking. "You need to hear this. Now." He stood up, heart thrumming like a hammer. "What's wrong?" Maggie paused, biting her lip hard enough to draw blood. Then, with a voice that cracked wide open, she blurted, "It's Uncle Tom. He's not just stealing money." Jack blinked, throat tightening. His mind rewound. What else could it be? What nightmare waited behind those crooked numbers? Maggie's eyes locked on his. He's been running something. Something more. Illegal. There's stuff hidden in the basement. Not just booze or cans, Jack. Worse. The words hit like a gunshot to the gut. Jack stepped forward, fists clenched, tight at his sides. What do you mean? What did you see? She swallowed, voice dropping to a harsh whisper. Boxes loaded with pills and cash. Big bags of cash stuffed everywhere. Drugs, Jack. He's into drugs. Smuggling. The room blurred for a second. Grease-stained walls, neon flicker, the smell of old coffee, all spinning around with the weight of the truth. Jack's knees nearly buckled. His uncle, the man who'd lectured him, mocked him. A criminal? The betrayal burned hotter than before. Before he could say anything, Maggie's phone rang. She fumbled, eyes darting to the screen. Tom, she hissed, voice trembling. Then she took a deep breath and looked dead at Jack. I have to meet him tonight. I think he's on to me. If he suspects I'm talking... Jack's heart pounded, black ice sliding down his spine. No, Maggie, you can't. It's a trap. Her glance flickered, filled with a storm. Fear tangled with stubborn courage. If I don't meet him, he'll think I'm weak. I have to know what he's planning. The diner's old fan sputtered in the silence that followed. Jack grabbed her arm, shaking like he was fighting a wild beast inside. This isn't a game. You could disappear. He's dangerous. Maggie's face twisted, tears threatening to spill. I'm your family. The words landed like a slap. Jack stepped back. The betrayal ran deeper, farther than money stolen or jokes at dinner. If his uncle was this dark, how many lies veiled the past? How long had his family been drowning in secrets? Then the lights flickered violently, plunging the diner into near darkness. The creak of the basement door ripped through the quiet. Slow, deliberate footsteps coming up the stairs. Jack and Maggie froze. The shadows lengthened, and there, at the top step, stood Uncle Tom. But not the man Jack thought he knew. His eyes burned red in the dim light, lips twisted into a slow, cruel smile. Clutched in one hand, a small, worn photo of a younger Jack. The other, something black and cold gleaming. "We need to talk, son," Uncle Tom said, voice low, dangerous. Jack swallowed hard. His chest felt like it was about to explode. In that frozen moment, everything shattered. The family, the diner, the truth. Because now, Jack wasn't just a kid with dreams and debts. He was a target. And the story they'd all lived was only just beginning to twist into something unrecognizable. Outside, the street lamp flickered once more and died. The diner plunged into darkness. Jack's heart thudded against his ribs as Uncle Tom stepped further into the dim light, the cruel grin etched on his face. Jack's breath hitched. The weight of everything hung around him. Betrayal, shock, fear. This wasn't just a family matter anymore. This was war. "What do you want?" Jack's voice was barely above a whisper, strained. Tom's smile deepened. "I think you know what this is about, Jack. Family means loyalty." "Loyalty?" Maggie's voice trembled, disbelief coating her words. "You've betrayed us, Uncle. How can you expect loyalty from us?" "Shut it, kid," Tom shot back, annoyance flickering. "You don't know anything." Jack felt a tremor run through him. That darkness in Tom's eyes was unfamiliar, like staring into an abyss. "What else have you done?" he whispered. Tom took a step forward, the shadows swallowing him momentarily. "You're smarter than I thought, but it doesn't matter now. Your time's up." Then, from behind Tom, the basement door creaked open wider. A tall figure emerged, silhouetted against the weak light filtering up from below. Jack squinted, recognition slamming into him hard. It was his neighbor, Mr. Ellis, the quiet man who had lived across the street his whole life. Jack had never questioned him until now. Ellis? Jack was shocked. Panic speared through him as he looked back and forth between Tom and the intruder. Tom chuckled, a low, rumbling sound. "You didn't see this coming, did you? Ellis has been my right-hand man for years." Maggie gasped, stepping back. "You two are in this together? What the hell is going on?" The faint light revealed a grim smile on Mr. Ellis's face. "It's simple, really. Family business, dear girl. Tom and I have our hands in all sorts of things. You just didn't know." Jack's mind raced. None of this made sense. He had grown up with Ellis, served him coffee and pie at the diner. You helped him?" "Helped him?" Tom laughed. "I'm the brains. He just does what he's told." "Why?" Jack demanded, the words ripping from his throat. "Why drugs? Why betray us?" "Because it's lucrative, kid," Tom snapped. "Get with the program. The family legacy is worth more than you'll ever understand. You were too busy dreaming to see the truth." The weight of Tom's words crashed down, a hellish reality Jack never anticipated. Everything he thought he knew about his uncle, about the diner, about family, was a lie. Then, without warning, the front door swung open, the bell jingling violently. An officer stepped in, the uniform stark against the fading light. Tom Harris, hands in the air. Panic erupted in the diner. Tom's eyes flared with rage, and he reached into his pocket. Jack's heart skipped. "No, don't!" he shouted. But it was too late. A gunshot rang out, echoing like thunder through the room. Jack felt the world drop from beneath him as Tom staggered back, a look of disbelief on his face, blood blooming across his shirt like a dark flower. "Run!" Ellis yelled, fear painting his features. Maggie's scream pierced the air, raw and full of terror. Jack stood frozen, the weight of what had just happened crashing down like an avalanche. As Tom crumpled to the floor, Jack's mind spun. The family wasn't just dysfunctional. It was dangerous, and now he was caught in the middle of something far greater than he ever wanted. Everything was shifting, relationships unraveling like loose threads. And as Jack looked around at the chaos, he realized there would be no turning back. The gunfire marked the beginning of their nightmare, and now everyone was a suspect. In that moment, under the flickering lights, Jack felt the ground shift beneath him. Tom was on the ground, blood pooling beneath him, and the world felt like it was spiraling out of control. Maggie's scream echoed in his ears, mingling with the wail of approaching sirens outside. "Get out! Get out!" Jack shouted, shoving Maggie towards the door. But she barely moved, frozen in shock. Uncle Tom lay just a few feet away, and his lifeblood spread like an ink blot across the faded tiles. Just then, a voice ricocheted around the room. "What the hell did you do, mister?" Ellis roared, panic etched across his face. He stepped back, his shadow merging with the growing darkness, fear simmering in his eyes. "I didn't do this," Jack yelled back, his voice cracking. "He just—" Tom's breathing became ragged, gasping, struggling to form words. "Cack," he wheezed, eyes narrowing. "You don't understand! It's bigger than you, than all of us!" Jack felt the walls close in. Everything he thought he knew shifted, like sand slipping through his fingers. Why was Tom still talking? Why wasn't he dead yet? Maggie gripped Jack's arm. "We need to run, now!" But just as they turned towards the door, a loud crash echoed from the back of the diner, drawing their attention. Something stumbled into the light. It was a man, disheveled and wild-eyed, clothes torn, skin pale. "Help!" he shouted, panic twisting his features. "Help me, they're coming." "Who's coming?" Jack shouted, his heart pounding in response to the terror painted across the stranger's face. "The cartel! They found me!" Maggie's eyes widened. "What are you talking about?" "I saw it! The deal went wrong!" the man shouted, his voice shaky. "They're coming for Uncle Tom! You've got to go! They don't care who—" Before he could finish, the diner door burst open again. A group of rough-looking men poured in, faces hard and menacing. Jack's blood ran cold. These were no ordinary thugs. They were professionals, and they oozed danger with every calculated movement. "Where is he?" one of them demanded, his voice like ice. "Run!" Jack yelled again, adrenaline surging. They couldn't stay here. They had to get out. He reached for Maggie, but she was rooted to the spot, terror written all over her face. "Get out!" Jack screamed, shoving her towards the door. "Now!" As the men scanned the room, their stares landed on Tom, and one of them stepped forward, a sick smile creeping across his lips. "Oh, Tom, you thought you could hide from us forever?" Jack's breath caught in his throat. This was it. Everything was spiraling. He wasn't just fighting his uncle's betrayal. This was a whole world of crime folding in on them. "Maggie, let's go," Jack urged, pulling her along, his grip fierce. But just as they reached the door, the man from the back stumbled again, barely able to stand. "The money, Tom. Where's the money?" he gasped. "Jack, what's happening?" Maggie's voice trembled, eyes darting between the chaos, confusion mixing with fear. And then, through the din, Uncle Tom let out a wheezing laugh, blood bubbling on his lips. "You think it's over?" His grin widened, sinister. "You're on the wrong side now, Jack." With a sudden clarity, Jack understood. Uncle Tom wasn't simply telling his story. He was sealing their fate. A wave of realization hit him like a punch. The family ties he thought he was protecting were networking into something far darker than any of them knew. In that moment, the back door swung open wide, revealing a figure in shadows, hauntingly familiar. Jack's heart dropped. "Mom," he whispered, the room closing in on him. The weight of the impending storm crashing against his chest. She stepped forward, a knowing look in her eyes. "It's time to choose, Jack. Which side are you on?" As Tom laughed again, high and broken, and the cartel men moved closer, Jack felt everything shatter. He wasn't just a pawn. He might be the king in this twisted game. But whose game? And at what cost? In that flickering light, as family and darkness loomed, everything changed. Sure, here's a revised excerpt that uses names, places, and expressions that are familiar to English speakers, making it relatable to a broader audience while maintaining the essence of the story. Jack's heart raced, a pounding drum in his chest as he stared at the chaos unfolding before him. Tom was on the ground, blood pooling beneath him. And the world felt like it was spiraling out of control. Maggie's scream echoed in his ears, mingling with the wail of approaching sirens outside. "Get out! Get out!" Jack shouted, shoving Maggie toward the door. But she barely moved, frozen in shock. Uncle Tom lay just a few feet away, and his lifeblood spread like an ink blot across the faded tiles. Then a frantic voice ricocheted around the room. "What the hell did you do?" Mr. Ellis roared, Panic etched across his face. He recoiled, his shadow merging with the growing darkness, fear flickering in his eyes. "I didn't do this," Jack yelled back, desperation clinging to him. Tom's breaths became ragged, gasping, struggling to form words. "Jack," he wheezed, eyes narrowing as the room filled with tension. "You don't understand. It's bigger than you, than all of us." Jack felt the walls close in. Why was Tom still talking? Why wasn't he dead yet? Maggie gripped Jack's arm. "We need to run, now!" But as they turned toward the door, a man stumbled into the light, disheveled and wild-eyed, clothes torn, skin pale. "Help!" he shouted, panic twisting his features. "Help me! They're coming!" "Who's coming?" Jack shouted, his heart pounding in response to the terror painted across the stranger's face. "The cartel! They found me!" the man shrieked, voice trembling. "I saw it! The deal went wrong!" Maggie's eyes widened. "What are you talking about?" "I'm telling you, they're coming for Uncle Tom! You've got to go! They don't care who!" Before he could finish, the diner door burst open again. A group of rough-looking men poured in, faces hardened with menace. Jack's blood ran cold. These were no ordinary thugs. They exuded danger with each calculated step. "Where is he?" one of them demanded, his voice icy. "Run!" Jack yelled again, adrenaline surging. They couldn't stay here. He reached for Maggie, but she was rooted to the spot, terror written all over her face. "Get out!" Jack screamed, shoving her toward the door. "Now!" As the men scanned the room, their stares landed on Tom, and one of them stepped forward, a cruel smile creeping across his lips. "Oh, Tom, you thought you could hide from us forever?" Jack's breath caught in his throat. This was it. Everything was spiraling. He wasn't just fighting his uncle's betrayal. This was a world of crime folding in on them. "Maggie, let's go!" Jack urged, pulling her along, his grip fierce. But just as they reached the door, the man from the back stumbled again, barely able to stand. "The money, Tom! Where's the money?" "Jack, what's happening?" Maggie's voice trembled, eyes darting between the chaos, confusion mixing with fear. Then Uncle Tom let out a wheezing laugh, blood bubbling on his lips. "You think it's over?" His grin widened, sinister. "You're on the wrong side now, Jack." With a sudden clarity, Jack understood. Uncle Tom wasn't just revealing his story. He was sealing their fate. A wave of realization hit him hard. The family ties he thought he was protecting were entwined in something far darker. In that moment, the back door swung open wide, revealing a figure in shadows, hauntingly familiar. Jack's heart dropped. "Mom," he whispered, the room closing in on him, the weight of the impending storm crashing against his chest. She stepped forward, a fierce look in her eyes. "It's time to choose, Jack. Which side are you on?" As Tom laughed again, high and broken, and the Cartel men moved closer, Jack felt everything shatter. He wasn't just a pawn. He might be the king in this twisted game. But whose game, and at what cost? In that flickering light, as family and darkness loomed, everything changed. Let me know if you need further adjustments or another section. Jack felt his heart race as his mother stepped into the flickering light. The weight of the moment pressed down like a brick. She looked at him, eyes filled with urgency, a beacon amid the unfolding chaos. "What do you mean, choose?" he stammered, trying to understand the implications. The sirens grew louder, the shadows around them closing in. Tom lay gasping, the blood pooling thicker by the second. "Jack, we need to talk. Not here," she urged, glancing at the Cartel men. "It's not safe." But Tom's laughter fractured the air. You think you're in control, don't you? Always playing the protector. You have no idea what's really going on. Shut up! Jack shouted back, anger rising. You've betrayed us. You think I'll listen to anything you say? Then, without warning, a gunshot shattered the tension again, echoing like a thunderclap. Everyone turned, eyes wide, breath held. The man from the back, the stranger who had warned them, crumpled to the ground, a dark pool forming beneath him. "No!" Maggie screamed, her face pale with horror. Jack's stomach twisted. The stranger hadn't even had time to plead for help. He was gone, just like that. The cartel men laughed, their cold eyes scanning the room, relishing the chaos. "How many more will have to die before you accept the truth?" one of them sneered. "This isn't your world, kid. It never was." And suddenly, Jack felt a shiver run down his spine. The way they talked, so familiar, so smug. It struck a chord deep inside. He looked back at his mother, searching her face for answers. "Tell me what's going on," he demanded, the urgency rising in his voice. She hesitated, glancing between Jack and Tom, then steeled herself. "I didn't just come back for family, Jack. I came to save you. We're not just caught in a web of crime. We're part of it." Confusion and dread washed over Jack. "What do you mean?" But before she could explain, the ground seemed to shake as the diner door slammed open again. This time, a figure walked in. Tall, imposing, dressed sharply in a dark suit. The room fell silent, eyes glued to him. "It's time," he said, voice smooth as silk, but edged with menace. "Tom, you've made mistakes, but I'm here to fix things." Jack's breath hitched. He recognized this man, Daniel, a name whispered in the corners of their small town. Rumored to be the ghost of the underworld, he was known for making all things disappear, and he had a reputation that sent shivers down every spine. "Daniel," Tom rasped, fear flickering behind his bravado. "You shouldn't be here." But Daniel walked closer, eyes locked on Jack. "You've got potential, kid. Your uncle messed up, but you're different. You've got a choice to make." Jack took a step back. "What kind of choice?" "Join us," he said, smirking slightly. "With your talent, you could run things, be someone important. Forget the diner, forget this life. This world, it can be yours." The walls of the diner felt like they were closing in. Jack's heart raced, the weight of the offer settling like an anchor in his chest. He was in the middle of something he never wanted to be part of. Yet here it was, staring him in the face. His mother's eyes were pleading, filled with a mix of fear and hope. "Jack, don't trust him. Don't fall for it." But Jack was caught, his mind spinning. He looked back at Tom, who was struggling to sit up. Anger and fear twisting his face, and then at Daniel, who wore an unsettling smile like a mask. Everything was spiraling out of control. His family ties, the promises of safety, the darkness lurking behind every shadow. Nothing was what it seemed. As uncertainty gripped him tighter, Jack felt the ground beneath him shift again, throwing him into a chasm of doubt. In that flickering, dim light, everything he thought he knew about loyalty and family unraveled. Now he had to decide. Would he grasp power and prestige at the cost of everything he ever believed in? And as the shadows stretched, reality slipped through his fingers like sand, leaving him standing on the precipice of an uncertain future. Jack's mind spun as he faced Daniel, the weight of his mother's warning heavy in the air. He glanced back at Tom, whose eyes burned with a mix of rage and fear. The cartel men advanced, intent on their grim business. But all Jack could focus on was the thunderous beating in his chest. Jack, make your choice, Daniel insisted, stepping forward, his voice dripping with temptation. Don't listen to your mother. She's trying to pull you back into a life of mediocrity. Mediocrity? Jack's chest tightened, anger flaring. This isn't about mediocrity. This is about right and wrong. But doubt seeped in, creeping through his veins like ice. Tom was gasping for air, blood dripping between his fingers. The life quickly slipping from him. Get the money, Jack. They'll kill us all for it, Tom wheezed, eyes darting, frantic. You think I'm the villain? I did this for us. But Jack couldn't look at him anymore. Every word felt like a betrayal. Right then, a crash echoed from the back of the diner. The door slammed open, sending a wave of cold air through the room. A woman burst in, wild-eyed, breathless. You have to run. They're coming. Everyone paused, confusion wrapping around them like a heavy fog. Jack felt his heart race again, fear prickling his skin. Who is this woman? Why was she so terrified? Who are you? Daniel demanded, annoyance flashing across his face. I don't have time for this, she yelled, her voice trembling. Tom, he sold us out. You're all in danger. They're on their way. The room went still, her words hanging in the air like a thick cloud. Jack's heart sank. What do you mean? Who sold out who? It's all part of a bigger game, she replied, eyes darting around. Tom made a deal he couldn't control. There's more than just the cartel involved. Tom's eyes widened, realization dawning. No, you're wrong! But the woman stepped closer, desperation in her tone. I'm not here to explain, but if you want to survive, you need to listen to me, now. Suddenly, a loud beep blared from everyone's phones. One by one, they all turned their screens towards them. A news alert flashed. Major drug bust in local diner. Multiple arrests expected. High-ranking members of a crime syndicate involved. No, Jack gasped, his mind racing. This can't be happening. The cartel men shifted nervously, glancing at each other. Before Jack could process the implications, the sound of sirens filled the air, closing in rapidly. The woman's face twisted in fear. This was never about the money. It's about survival, your survival. Tom let out a desperate laugh, but it turned into a coughing fit. You think I did this? I was protecting my family. But Jack felt the walls closing in, the weight of betrayal crashing around him. Everything was shattering. Maggie stood wide-eyed. This is all your fault, Uncle. No, it isn't. I was trying to keep you safe, Tom shouted back. But the panic was evident in his voice. Jack's eyes locked on his mother, who seemed distant now. You knew about all this, he spat, feeling the pain bloom in his chest. You didn't tell me! Before she could reply, a loud bang echoed from outside. The front windows rattled violently, glass shattering as armed officers stormed in. Everyone freeze! A surge of chaos erupted. People screamed, dashed for the exits. Jack's heart raced as he grabbed Maggie's hand. We have to go! No, Tom howled, fear etching his face as he turned to the cartel men, desperation creeping into his voice. You can't leave me! I didn't betray you! But they were already retreating, merging into the shadows. Daniel pointed at Jack. You want power? Get out now! Choose your side! Jack hesitated, paralyzed as the world broke apart around him. His heart raced. He wasn't just in a battle for his life. He was caught in a treacherous game, and the cards were stacked against him. In that moment, reality twisted. The last thing he saw was his mother's face, eyes wide with something akin to fear and respect. Then, as the sirens blasted and bullets ricocheted, everything imploded. Jack realized the truth, a truth so devastating it shattered everything he thought he knew. The life he clung to, the family he fought for held secrets darker than he ever imagined. But the chaos closed in, leaving him standing at a crossroads he never wanted to face. Choices loomed in the swirling dust. And just as he thought he might grasp the truth again, a gunshot rang out. It pierced through the air, sharp and deadly. And then silence fell like a curtain. Jack's heart sank. What had he done? Jack stood frozen, heart pounding, as the gunshot shattered the air. Time slowed. The diner fell into a deafening silence, thick with tension and the smell of smoke. He felt the world tilt on its axis. He turned to see the figure of the woman, the wild-eyed stranger, crumpling to the ground. Blood blooming across her white shirt in shocking red. "No!" Nagy screamed, rushing towards her. "Don't!" Jack shouted, panic lacing his voice. The cartel men looked on, eyes gleaming with twisted curiosity amidst the chaos. This wasn't just a crime scene anymore. It was a war zone. The remaining cartel members shifted, their confidence wavering. They hadn't come here for casualties, but for control. Across the room, Tom lay gasping, consciousness fading. "You have to get out," he rasped, but Jack barely heard him. He was too focused on the woman. The sharpness of her warning echoed in his mind. She was trying to save them. "Nagy, we can't! It's a trap!" Jack yelled, pulling her back. She hesitated, eyes wide with shock, and it felt like time was fracturing. Every second stretched, the hum of fear vibrating in the air around them. Then Daniel, the man in the suit, stepped closer. There was something unsettling about his calm demeanor. "You see, Jack," he said smoothly, "this is all just a misunderstanding. You're swept up in something much bigger than you imagined." "Bigger?" Jack felt his chest tighten, raw anger bubbling up. "What the hell does that mean?" But Daniel only smirked, his eyes narrowing. "It means you have a choice to make, and it's time to decide who you really want to be." That's when Jack noticed something in the corner of Daniel's jacket. A flash of metal. "What are you hiding?" Jack demanded, voice trembling. Maggie's eyes darted, and Jack felt her fear rising again. "We need to go, please," she urged, clutching Jack's arm. In the chaos, the diner door burst open again, this time sending in a flood of police officers. "Get down! Hands where we can see them!" they barked, guns drawn. Panic erupted once more. Jack stood, feeling the walls close in around him. Shouts echoed as people scattered towards the exits. In the frenzy, he caught Daniel's gaze, sharp, calculating. Then a startling gasp from behind made Jack turn. The woman, she was stirring, struggling to breathe. Blood pooled at her side, but her eyes were sharp, focused on him. "Jack," she whispered hoarsely, voice cracking, "what you don't know, it's not just about the diner." "Shut up!" one of the cartel men barked, but Jack couldn't look away. "The truth," she wheezed, clutching her side, "is that Tom, he's—" A loud crash interrupted. A heavy metal object fell from the front counter, revealing a hidden door just beyond it, swinging open with a sinister creak. "Jack!" Maggie yelled, horror-struck. "We have to go!" But the woman managed to speak through gritted teeth, dread thickening the air. "It leads to a tunnel. You have to go down before they find." Before she could finish, one of the cartel men barked an order, and chaos escalated. "Move!" a police officer shouted, stumbling into the midst of the melee. Jack felt everything whirl around him. Reality was a blur of shouting and confusion. Daniel sneered, stepping toward the open door, something glinting in his hand. "Then, let's make this simple." He pointed the weapon at Jack. That's when the unthinkable happened. He pulled the trigger. The shot rang out, echoing like an explosion, and Jack braced for the worst, thinking of Maggie. But a loud thud followed, and the woman gasped, "No!" before crumpling to the ground again. blood spraying from the place where she once stood. Jack's heart stopped. He fell to his knees, the truth crashing down like a wave. Everything he thought he knew shattered. The woman was protecting them. She was more than just a scared stranger in the diner. "No!" Jack screamed, wrenching his head toward Daniel, who stood smirking, unfazed by the unfolding horror. "What the hell?" Maggie cried, her face pale. But as Jack looked back, he saw more than fury in Daniel's eyes. He saw something closer to satisfaction, as if this was all part of his plan. "Jack, you have to decide," Daniel said, voice low, taunting. "Join us or die with them." Everything felt heavy. The truth, the choices, the lives dangling by a thread. Jack's pulse raced. The cartel was closing in. The sirens outside echoed like a distant heartbeat, and everything blurred. In that moment of overwhelming despair, the woman's lifeless body lay sprawled on the diner floor, the blood seeping into the cracks. Jack's world tipped further into chaos. A final, anguished scream echoed in the din, and Jack could only watch as reality twisted around him, leaving him trapped in a nightmare. Who could he trust? What was the truth? As everything spiraled out of control, he realized the game had just begun, and the stakes were higher than he ever imagined. Jack stood frozen in shock, staring at the lifeless woman on the floor. The moment stretched like an elastic band, ready to snap. Panic throbbed in his chest. He could hear the sirens wailing outside, closing in, but his focus was on the chaos unfolding around him. "Get down!" an officer shouted. And Jack instinctively ducked, pulling Maggie down with him. The weight of the moment felt suffocating, his heart pounding in sync with the thudding chaos of the diner. He glanced at Tom, gasping, blood bubbling from his lips. Daniel's smirk deepened, the glint in his eyes colder than any blade. "You thought this was just about you? You have no idea what you're walking into." The cartel men were shifting, restlessness creeping into their stances as the police drew nearer. The tension was thick enough to slice through. The whole diner felt like it was teetering on the brink of collapse. "This isn't over," Daniel hissed, eyes narrowing on Jack. Jack felt a surge of anger, his body tense with adrenaline. "What are you really after?" he demanded, tightening his grip on Maggie's hand. "Why are you doing this?" But the answer never came. Just as light bulbs overhead flickered, a sharp crack shattered the air. A shot fired, echoing like a death knell. Jack's breath caught in his throat, but it wasn't Daniel who had pulled the trigger. It was Tom. Jack turned his head in time to see Tom raise a gun, eyes wide with a sudden clarity, mixed with desperation. "I did it to protect you," he gasped, and before Jack could react, Tom turned the weapon to himself. "I won't let them take you." "No!" Jack shouted, lunging forward, but it was too late. A deafening blast rang through the diner. Tom collapsed, the gun falling from his hand, leaving a silence that felt almost sacred. It hung in the air, heavy with disbelief and sorrow. Maggie screamed again, the sound piercing, raw. Jack felt a churning in his stomach, the world spiraling. He couldn't process what just happened. Tom was down. The figure who had taunted him, the man who had once been a protector, was gone. Then, amidst the stillness, the woman on the floor stirred, eyes flickering open, as if waking from a long sleep. Blood oozed from her wound, but with one strained gasp, she whispered something that sent a jolt through Jack. It was all a setup. "What?" Jack's breath caught. "What did you say?" The words tumbled out of her as if they were fighting to escape. "Tom, he wasn't betraying you. He's undercover. It was a ruse to protect you from—" Before she could finish, the noise outside grew louder, officers flooding the diner. Fear surged through Jack. The reality of his uncle's role, His involvement in something so much deeper than he had ever imagined, wrapped around him like a vice. Nothing made sense anymore. Daniel's expression shifted, realizing the tides were turning. "This isn't the end," he stated, eyes now narrowed, focusing intensely on Jack. "You have no idea what's at stake. If you walk out of here now, you'll be a target." But the truth hung heavy in the air. Jack's heart raced, the walls closing in. He felt trapped between two worlds. Behind him, the sirens blared closer. And in front of him, the weight of family and loyalty screamed for his attention. In that moment of chaos, Jack's world tilted. He had to decide. Would he run toward the police, toward safety and the truth? Or would he dive deeper into the shadows where danger lingered? With Tom gone and the police closing in, fear gripped him tightly. And as the weight of the past slammed into his chest, he realized that the very fabric of his life had unraveled. Suddenly, the woman's voice cut through the din, more urgent now. "The cartel is coming for you, Jack. You need to." But that was when darkness fell again. The lights flickered one last time, and the room was swallowed in chaos. What had he just uncovered? His mind reeled with the implications. Could he trust anything he thought he knew about his family, his uncle, or even himself? He took a deep breath, poised at the edge of everything. The path forward felt uncertain. The weight of betrayal hung in the air. And then, just like that, he made his choice. Jack stood at the edge, breathless and confused. The chaos around him felt like a storm growing stronger. His heart hammered in his chest. The woman on the floor, blood pooling beneath her, was barely hanging on. The sirens crescendoed outside, but inside, time slowed. "Maggie, we need to go." Jack yelled, urgency tightening his voice. But she was still frozen, staring at the woman. "Jack, she's trying to help us," Maggie gasped, her eyes wide. Before Jack could respond, the diner door crashed open again, this time revealing a line of officers in tactical gear. They stormed in, guns drawn and shouts echoing through the cramped space. "Everyone freeze!" Panic erupted once more. People screamed. Tables tipped over as diners scrambled for safety. Jack pulled Maggie closer, heart racing, dodging the chaos. Daniel stood taller, his smirk fading. "This isn't over," he growled, backing toward the corner, eyes darting around as if calculating his next move. A rising tension rang in Jack's ears, urgency blending with confusion. He couldn't shake off the feeling that something was about to crack wide open, like a bubble ready to burst. Then, a loud crash echoed from the back of the diner. All heads turned instinctively, including Jack's. The sound came from the hidden door behind the counter. "Not again," Jack muttered under his breath. But before he could process what was happening, out stumbled a figure, disheveled and wild-eyed, almost cinematic in their entrance. "It's happening!" the figure cried, stumbling forward, breathless and pale. "They're coming. You have to trust me." Jack squinted, trying to recognize the face. It was Ryan, an old friend from school. "Ryan? What are you doing here?" "I heard the plan. I came to warn you," he shouted, eyes darting between the chaos and Jack. "The cartel is here for you, Jack. They're going to—" But before Ryan could finish, a bullet rang out, piercing the air. It caught him just above the shoulder. He fell to the ground, blood swiftly soaking his shirt. "Maggie, no! Stay back!" Jack shouted, horror rushing through him as he lunged toward Ryan. "Get down!" The diner erupted in screams. Jack's heart raced. The chaos pulling him under. The cops moved in, but the cartel men were already retreating. They'd seen enough. "Daniel!" one of them yelled, voice filled with fear. "We can't stay here. We need to regroup." But Daniel stood still, eyes locked onto Jack. This isn't about them anymore. It's about you, kid. Suddenly, the woman on the ground gasped. Jack turned just in time to see her struggling, her expression morphing from pain to clarity. Jack, listen. You need to know the truth about all of this. Just then, the sirens outside took an abrupt turn. Their wails crescendoed into a deafening roar, drowning everything out. Lights flashed through the windows, creating a strobe effect across the diner. Then something incredibly unexpected happened. A vehicle burst through the front wall. Debris exploded, sending everyone flying backward. Jack barely managed to shield Maggie as they hit the floor. Everything blurred, sounds twisted into chaos, and then the dust began to settle. Amidst the wreckage, a figure emerged. It was a woman, their mother. But not just any mother. She was alive. "Jack!" she shouted, voice fierce, eyes wild. "We have to go, now!" Time froze. Jack's heart twisted in disbelief. She was supposed to be gone, a distant memory locked away in the stories of their past. "Mom?" he said weakly, struck by the shock. "What is happening?" She stepped aside, revealing a hidden cache behind her. Stacks of cash and boxes of drugs. Jack's heart sank, realizing the truth pulled him closer and closer into a dark hole. "You need to trust me," she cried, desperation pouring from her. "There's so much you don't know. The cartel isn't the only danger." Panic surged through him. Everything he thought was true began to crack apart. Family, trust, loyalty. It all felt like quicksand, slipping away from his grasp. "What do you mean?" Jack stammered, fear clawing at him. But as he looked into her eyes, he saw a mix of love and something darker. Something unrecognizable. The air thickened with confusion, as Jack faced a choice none of them saw coming. Betrayal layered over betrayal, and truths hidden for years now spilled like blood on the diner's floor. Just as realization hit him like a cold wave, the cartel men rushed back in, fury etched onto their faces. "Get them!" one of them shouted. Jack's mind raced. This was the moment. Everything he believed, everything he wanted, hinged on what he chose next. "Mom! What do we do?" Jack yelled, breathless, as chaos erupted all around him again. His world spinning into total confusion. And just as the first punch landed, the true nature of everything twisted in a way he never could have imagined, changing the course forever.